Hello and welcome to the Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kizma. I'm Nick, and for the next few weeks, we're going to be covering a book. And the book is something that's been really special to us. It's called The Big Leap. It's all about self-sabotage and overcoming our upper limiters.
Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kizma, bringing you ancient wisdom for modern day success so that you can have the mindset to get your life and business set.
As always, thank you for tuning in. And if you're new to the podcast, take a quick second to hit the subscribe button in iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. If you want to get the inside info for this and every episode, as well as some free gifts, go to illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. And now let's dive in to get your mindset for your life and business set. Kizma.
Hello.
I'm pretty excited.
I know you are. You've been so excited about recording these episodes, which we'll have 3 or 4?
There'll be 4 of them.
4 episodes devoted to this book. We had taken a week off last week during Christmas. We didn't have one to release, and it's like you've been chomping at the bit to get into the recording studio.
Yeah, I have been. I have been. It's kind of like a guest. You know, we don't have guests very often, and it's been also quite a while since we've covered a book.
Yeah.
So you know that if we're covering a book, everybody, that it has either really meant something to us in our lives, or it's something that we think would be super relevant to all of you, or both. And this one happens to be both.
Yes.
We're releasing it right around the new year.
Oh, such a good time.
It's a perfect time because what happens, everybody, is they get into their new year and they start out, and then sooner or later things start going well. And then all of a sudden they just sabotage whatever was working and go right back to the way things were.
Yeah, not this year. 2020, the year of perfect inner vision. We are big leaping, everyone.
We are making the big leap.
Leaping big and big leaping.
So I don't actually know a ton about this author in particular, Gay Hendricks.
He's up in Ojai with his wife.
Ojai is so amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah. But I can tell by reading his book that the dude knows what he's talking about. And the reason that we're covering this is certainly in our work, for anybody who listens that has worked with us personally, or you just followed us, you know that this is a conversation that we've been talking about and having for a long time. And when I finally found this book, I think I found it through you, Kizma. I was like, Gay had such a way of really distilling this conversation around self-sabotage and adding so much clarity to it.
Yes.
You know, because I think it can be kind of a tricky conversation for people because it's the last thing that anybody thinks about, because this is definitely more of a subconscious conversation. Like nobody's thinking, hey, things are going really awesome. I think I'm going to totally screw it up right now.
I hope not.
Right.
You never know. But yeah, it does become this subconscious whispers, like things are going great and I better screw it up.
Yeah. Yeah. And so since it's a conversation that tends to happen below the surface, having a sense of clarity around it is super helpful to know, what are some of the things to look for? So throughout this series, we're going to cover really more in depth in this episode, what the heck is self-sabotage and how does this work? And then in the future episodes, we're going to cover some of the barriers that people encounter, some of the core issues around that, as well as in the third episode, talk about the methods and modes of that. So that's what you have to look forward to, everybody. We felt like it was important enough to devote a few episodes to this.
For sure.
So
it's deep work. It's so great.
If you want to pick up a copy of the book and follow along with us, you are more than welcome to do so. We'll include a link in the show notes. It's called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, and here we go. So I wanted to start this out because he describes the problem. He goes into a bit of detail about it in his own story and that of how he discovered this. But he says here the problem, he states it very clearly. I have a limited tolerance for feeling good. When I hit my upper limit, I manufacture thoughts that make me feel bad. I just love the simple language. Right? The problem is bigger than just my internal feelings, though. I seem to have a limited tolerance for my life going well in general. When I hit my upper limit, I do something that stops my positive forward trajectory. I get into a conflict with my ex-wife, get into a money bind, or do something else that brings me back down within the bounds of my limited tolerance.
Oh man, you can just feel it when he talks about it, that limited tolerance.
Yeah, you can tell that he had given it a thought and had been examining this happen in his life. And that's the first thing I really want to invite the audience to do is in your own life, have you noticed times when things are going really well and then all of a sudden something or somebody pulls the rug out from under you?
Or you pull the rug out from under yourself.
Yeah.
That's usually what I do, but
yeah. Well, that's what we all do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
they can show up in different ways.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know about you, Kisma, but certainly for me, I can't tell you how many clients and people I've talked with that things are going well and they have this feeling of like impending doom.
Yes.
Waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Right. I can't believe it's happening.
Right. And that in itself is evidence that this is operating in our lives.
Yeah.
Right. That feeling because you've seen it enough times and enough ways that there's a deep fear around that of like, ooh, I better be on the lookout because things are going well.
You know, it goes back to some of those Vedanta teachings of when we desire something, there's agitation till we get it, and then we immediately have a fear of losing it. It's like such a form of attachment.
Right. Yeah, that attachment, then the fear of loss around it, and things are going well. So, it's played out so many times for people that's the belief that they have. I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. So it's interesting too of how it operates. It limits on a couple different levels because either, sometimes it's not so overt where, okay, everything is going great. Now I'm just going to blow it all up. Sometimes it's like it's more of a slow grind. So people get a windfall of cash or money's really working well for them. And they start to hold and grasp onto it because of that exact fear of like, ooh, I better be careful.
Yeah.
And they start to play it safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, you can talk a little bit about that. Like what does that do to prosperity?
Well, it completely disrupts it. It's that anytime we're squeezing and hoarding and holding on to, we are not in the understanding of how money or anything flows, the energy coming in and going out. And life isn't all going to keep being quote unquote good. There's the events of life. And then I think what he really gets into here, which I know you'll share, is like how we see something and then we really focus on it not working and it expands.
Yeah. Yeah. And he'll explain too, as well as how we take it and just really subconsciously start to spin our lives out. And it's very interesting in working with people. This is one of the reasons I feel like working with having somebody in your life that will tell you the truth and really shine a light on things, that is like one of the most valuable people you could ever have in your life.
I agree.
A coach or a mentor that will show you these things because these are the things that we never see ourselves.
Right. I always have a coach.
You never think like, oh, this is going great. I must be totally sabotaging, if things are really starting to spin out, I must be totally sabotaging myself. No, we get into all the other modes around it,
Right.
But to have somebody who can sit with us objectively and talk through it and start to shed the light on those areas of like, oh, what are the fears and things around this that I can start to unwind and can I start to move beyond that?
Right.
And so he asks the thing that I love about him, this is what tells me he's very skilled at what he does, is he asks great questions.
Questions, man. Brilliant.
He asks really great questions. How can I extend the periods of contentment in my life? This is a little...
Oh, say that again.
It's a little train of thought here that kind of led him to this whole thing.
Yeah.
How can I extend the periods of contentment in my life?
That is so brilliant because how often are we even content?
Right.
How often are we really content? So we grab that moment. It's like, I think I'm going to extend this.
Yeah. Right. And so then he said, even better questions sprang up. If I can eliminate the behaviors that stop the flow of positive energy, can I learn how to feel great all the time? Interesting question. Who out there and who listening to this feels like it's totally possible for you to feel great and have your life go well all the time?
It's going to be a perspective too. We know that.
It is. It absolutely is. Can I allow things to go well in my life all the time? In relationships, can I live in harmony and intimacy all the time?
Great questions. Yeah.
Right?
I think a lot of us are hearing, no.
And then he asked the big question, can our species live in expanding waves of peace and prosperity, free from the pattern of messing things up when they are going well?
Well, that's just a great question for humanity.
A human being can absolutely do that. A human being can totally do that. So he rolls through a few of these other questions. Am I willing to increase the amount of time every day that I feel good inside?
I love that because it's taking ownership. I just taught a class for my ashram people, and we were asking questions around soul statements that we created. And anytime we ask our brain a question, there's like an immediate pause, which is why I feel like Gay Hendricks' work is so powerful in this big leap, because like you said, he's asking these really great questions.
Yeah.
And when we ask that question, can you repeat that one you just...
Am I willing to increase the amount of time every day that I feel good inside?
Most people haven't even pondered that it's possible to increase the time that we feel good inside.
That's right.
And so by asking a question, it's like, wait, it's possible? Yes, it's possible.
Yeah, you're in control of that, actually. And I like he phrases it really uniquely. Feel good inside, right? Inside. And that's a thing that comes up time and again, where people feel so pressurized with time and with doing things and trying to fit it all in so that they can do the things, right? Or accomplish the things that will make them feel good. Right? You can actually just bypass that.
Noisy.
You can just feel good.
You can just feel good. And then all that other stuff you do will just be easier and more meaningful. And you can do less.
Yeah.
Because you're already feeling good.
And accomplish more.
Yeah.
Right. And
so good.
It's a very interesting kind of paradox. There's so many times people are, and that's the endless chase. I'm chasing this feeling and I think I'm going to get that feeling through accomplishing or doing or these certain things. And the truth of the matter is that you can choose your feelings. You actually get to do that as a human. That's the beauty of being a human being. No other creature gets to do that. How about this one? Am I willing to increase the amount of time that my whole life goes well?
That's so brilliant. Like, I just love that he came up with that. Am I willing to increase the amount of time that my whole life goes well? Not just today, but like the whole freaking existence.
Like, who really thinks about that?
I know.
But it's a great question because if you tick back through your history, how many times in your life has everything felt just totally aligned and just going on its great track all at once?
Yeah.
There always seems to be something here or there, like this is going pretty well, but then this thing's starting to kind of fall apart, or this, all these things are falling apart, but okay, I got this one little bright spot, and it goes through these weird kind of iterations of that, but there's always something, always some kind of anxiety, always some kind of emergency or fire that people are putting out. And most people, I'm not saying everybody, but most people, when they tick back, it's like if they really looked at it in a general sense, they might say, yeah, it's going okay. But when you're actually down in it, there's always something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Am I willing to increase the amount of time that my whole life goes well?
I like everyone just say yes. Like right now, let's just say, yes, I am, because that's the starting point.
Yeah. Yeah, let's
my
go with
willingness.
that.
Yeah, I am.
Keep saying yes to that. And let's be honest, as we go through this, these are going to be released weekly. As you go through these audios, you're going to have to probably re-enroll yourself in that conversation.
Yeah.
This is not a one yes kind of deal, although that first yes is kind of a big deal.
It gets exciting.
Yeah, it is. And I was like, this is
a great question
possible
to write down and put on the mirror and on the computer.
And keep that going for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Am I willing to feel good and have my life go well all the time?
No, I need to struggle. Makes me strong. It's amazing. It's amazing what people think needs to happen, what we humans think needs to happen. But in actuality, I can feel good and have life go well all the time.
You really can. Yeah, you really can. It's a very interesting thing, that he's bringing up here. And he's putting the formula the right side up.
Yes.
Which is something I know that both of us do a lot of, but you in particular do a lot of in your work, is people want to manifest things and they're often are doing all the external things and even achieving great goals, but they get the goals and they still don't feel the way they want to feel.
Yeah. It's the not enoughness energy.
It's chasing a shadow, as Swamiji would put it.
Chasing a shadow.
And this is why I mentioned that about having it be part of your conversation, that, it just might be possible that my life can go well and I can feel good more and more time.
It just might be possible.
It just might be possible.
Like starting with that, it's like, one more breath, more breath, I can actually feel good.
Right. And if you're willing to stay in that, then you have the ability to continue to expand that.
Yeah, because, and I know we'll get to this, but when we're willing to stay in that, there's so much we're willing to stay out of.
Yeah. What are some of the things that come up to stay out of?
Well, stay out of anxiety, stay out of resentment, stay out of blame, stay out of victimization, stay out of drama, stay out of chaos, like all those things.
Yeah.
When we're asking these questions, we're willing to stay out of those.
Yeah. And we're going to cover all of those in depth in a future episode. But it's interesting that the limitations that those simple questions can bring up, and totally understandable for all the reasons we said. We've seen things go well, and then we've seen them spin out. We've reached those moments, and then all of a sudden everything falls apart.
Right.
That has happened enough times to create a fear, and that fear becomes the limitation. He says here, in my life, I've discovered that if I cling to the notion that something's not possible, I'm arguing in favor of limitation.
Oh,
I
drop the mic.
I knew you'd like that one.
Just brilliant. I'm arguing in favor of limitation. Like, who wants that?
If I cling to the notion that something's not possible, I'm arguing in favor of limitation. So that's why I said, you just might be able to. I just might be able to.
I just might be able to.
Just start that simply.
It's possible.
It's possible. Yeah. All of these are really important, right? Like that fear or that idea that it's just like, no way. There's no way. Like,
why do you think we seem to be pre-programmed to self-sabotage? Or are we? I don't think we come in as pure divine babies self-sabotaging. I think there's things that happen, agreements, hurts, pains, needs to be right, needs to be safe. And we kind of flip back, when things are going well. Well,
these are things that are going to come up in more depth, but it's worth it to just bring it up and start to hash a little bit of it out, because his first statement with the problem is right. I seem to have a limitation of how much like goodness I can have in my life.
And just taking ownership of that.
Yeah.
I seem to have a limitation here.
Yeah.
Like, interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Very interesting. Not wrong. Don't shame yourself. Not bad. I seem to have a limitation as to how much good can happen in my life.
So if we leave the past lives and the karmic things out of this, which I think is good for this kind of a conversation, then it comes down to the programming that we've adopted throughout. Okay. So whatever that may be, whatever the reasons are that we've decided that it's not okay. And he gives some good ones that we're going to go through in more depth. But in essence, there's an idea that I'm just not worthy of that. Like I'm fundamentally flawed. There's something wrong with me.
Life isn't supposed to be.
Yeah. I can't have that this way.
Yeah. No one else in my family had it.
Yeah. You'd see something like that, or you'll see things around outshining others,
Yeah.
In order for me to
don't make
really
people feel bad. What are people going to say about me?
That's right. Those kinds of things. So it comes down to those core limitations and fears around that really inhibit somebody. So when it starts to come up, and nobody will think about that. Like nobody would, you wouldn't necessarily, if you're in your everyday, you're not going to be thinking, when I was a little kid, like my mom, felt really badly when I did better than my siblings, and I don't want to make my mom feel bad, so I'm just going to dull my shine. Right? Nobody thinks that in their daily life.
No, but it becomes, it's like a little fever that just takes over and we operate from.
Yeah, exactly. And then it gets buried underneath just daily stuff. We're busy in our lives. It gets buried under different things that are more urgent. There are lots of things in our lives that are much louder than this. And truth be told, a lot of times we're in a place where we're really just trying to keep up.
Right.
And create what we need to create, do what we need to do, fulfill our obligations, enjoy our lives. It's like so many things are so much louder than that these deeper issues don't get addressed. The fears around them, the things that we hold on to. He talks about this fear, I think, in an interesting way. Let's see, who is he quoting here? He's quoting somebody else. Fritz Perls. This is the founder of Gestalt therapy. Fritz said, "Fear is excitement without the breath."
Go Fritz.
Right? Think about that. We get afraid of something, we stop breathing, right?
Yeah.
Right away. You can't breathe. It's true. Like it is very, very similar emotion, excitement around, it's an excitement.
It's like the being gets excited.
Dr. Pearl has pointed out, the less breath you feed your fear, the bigger the fear gets. It's kind of like a fire that's like sucking the oxygen out, right?
Yeah.
The best advice I can give you is to take big, easy breaths when you feel fear. And that's something that we wouldn't necessarily do. So think about it. Think about how this functions in our lives. Things are going well, and then something starts to spin us out. Something starts to really pull the rug out for there's going to be fear of loss around that. There's going to be these emotions. And the last thing we're going to be thinking about is just kind of being with ourselves and I wonder what's really going on here. You're going to be putting out fires, right? And
putting out fires and paralysis and stopping.
Right.
And sabotaging.
That's right. He really brings it back here about this idea of sharing our gifts. And this is going to be a theme that comes back because another big part of this book is not just self-sabotage, but self-sabotage in moving into your zone of genius, to really doing what you're here to do. When you reach the end of your life and are wondering whether it's all been worthwhile, you'll be measuring whether you did everything you possibly could with the gifts you've been given. When I was growing up, my next door neighbor, Mr. Lewin, shared a powerful bit of wisdom with me. I've kept it in mind for more than 50 years. On Judgment Day, Mr. Lewin said, "God will not ask, 'Why were you not Moses?' He will ask, 'Why were you not Sam Lewin?'" The goal in life is not to attain some imaginary ideal. It is to find and fully use our own gifts. And I wanted to drop that piece in here at the end because it provides a hugely important context for this whole conversation. Self-sabotage, okay, for levels of success and things going well. That's all really important. Those are beautiful questions. Hey, I wonder if I might be able to just feel good and have my life go well all the time. Hey, that's a really neat notion. And even there, we experience some amount of resistance around that. Nah, it's not possible.
No.
Yeah.
Until you keep asking, and then you might be like, well, maybe.
Right. But to what end?
Yeah.
Right. That's the real question where I want to end this episode is to what end? Is it just to feel good and have things go well? Maybe. Or the step beyond that, the real leap in my mind is this goal. It's not to attain some imaginary ideal. It's to find and fully use our own gifts. And that's
to seek the self within.
That's right. And that's the real beauty of a human being and what we can accomplish in this world. And that's truly that will always, I think, in a certain way, be a scary / exciting place because it's constantly expanding into the unknown of ourselves.
Oh, it's so good.
So it's no wonder that self-sabotage becomes a part of that because when you're constantly expanding in that way, allowing things to go well and having more freedom to use and express your gifts and to discover what those are, that's going to be an inherently kind of scary place.
Yes.
And it's super easy.
It's a stretch. You're going into being uncomfortable and getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And it's beautiful at the same time.
Yeah. It's amazing. I'm really excited about it. So I hope those questions were valuable for everybody. And I hope that you gave a yes, that you're willing.
A yes. Yeah. And before I give an illuminated thought, what's up with the next episode? So we encourage everyone to tune back in next week.
Well, the next episode, we are going to talk in much more depth about those hidden barriers.
Okay,
so
that's important.
Fears and false beliefs around or that underpin this pattern of self-sabotage.
Okay, so make sure you tune in for that. My illuminated thought around all of this, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, is to ask yourself a question every day that comes from willingness. Am I willing to? Because there's something magical about that, asking if I am willing. And if you're coming from your soul, there's going to be a yes. And being able to ask that question every day in and of itself will allow some of that sabotage to stop.
Beautiful. Willingness. That's really where it all starts getting fun.
Yeah. Well, excited for this. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. You're amazing. We so appreciate you at Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kizma. Please share this episode with someone that you feel might benefit. We would so appreciate that. Any questions, shares, comments, email us at hello@illuminationpodcast.com. And until next time, much love and peace.
Namaste.
Hey, thanks for jamming with us today. And if you enjoy Illumination Podcast, please go ahead and share it with someone you love. Give us a rating, review, download our podcast. And remember, you can find us at illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. Talk to you soon. Namaste.